us. Like,
Right.
just like they don't like, they like our money,
Yeah.
but they don't like us. They don't like our value system or anything like that. And so I think President Trump's doing a really good job at putting America first, which is his job. That's it's. Can you believe it's such a radical concept that the president of the United States would put the American people who elected him first?
So, Jackson Lahmeyer, you've recently written a book called Chasing After the Wind, and you are the founder of Pastors for Trump. And you've got a long list of things, that you are quite proud of. Can you talk a little bit about what you do?
Do a little bit of everything. Thanks for having me on. And, I'm a pastor in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I pastor a great church, Sheridan Church, and have been in the political arena as well. As you said, I led Pastors for Trump during the 2024 campaign. And now, helping Pastor Paula White and Jenny Korn in the White House Faith Office. And so great things are happening. And not only that, but I also have five kids. So that's kind of like it's a big deal, man. Five kids.
How old are you, man?
33.
So I'm 40. I got four kids myself. It's one of the greatest things that I've ever accomplished is being a dad.
Oh
It's
yeah.
one of the it gives my life purpose, you know what I mean? And it's one of the only things I've ever been good at. So um so you recently you wanted to talk a little bit about the attacks and targeted bias against Christians inside federal agencies like the DOJ, FBI, and IRS.
Oh yeah.
Man, I had no idea any of that stuff was going on. I hear in the news cycles, and it cycles really fast these days. But it seems like every day I'm hearing about new instances of anti-Semitism and anti-Christian sentiments popping up everywhere. And I don't know where that comes from, but I had no idea it was going on inside the government.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. The most persecuted group in the United States of America is not the LGBTQ demographic. It is not minorities. It is Christians. Christians are the most persecuted segment of our society, which is incredible given that our nation was founded as a Christian nation. I mean, our founding fathers, the vast majority of them were Christians. Our principles are Christian. And so our nation has turned upside down. And a lot of this is thanks to Barack Obama, and he kind of set things into motion, especially in regards to DOJ, IRS, FBI, and now a lot of it is coming out, and there's a whole bunch more that will come out. But what has happened is individuals like myself have been targeted because we're Christian, but we're also vocal. If we were Christians and we were just silent, well, then they'd probably leave us alone.
Yeah.
But since we're vocal, all of a sudden we must be silenced. And you kind of seen this, whether it's lawfare or just the weight of the federal government coming down upon an institution, organization, or an individual. And so the IRS is kind of like the tip of the iceberg type of thing. Very, very bad what's happened to a lot of pastors individually, churches, or even organizations and institutions like the Grand Canyon University that had the largest fine ever against it. And, President Trump peeled it back. That's a Christian university. A lot of people don't know that. And so it's a real thing. Thank God for President Trump keeping his campaign promise of opening up the White House Faith Office, because one of the purposes of the Faith Office is to protect religious freedom here in the United States. And part of having religious freedom is you can express what you believe without fear of being targeted by the IRS, FBI, DOJ. I mean, there's a pastor here in Oklahoma that I've connected with, and he was raided by the ATF, and just because he's a conservative pastor and a Trump supporter during the Biden years, and here comes knocking down his doors the ATF. And so it's just examples like this. They're all over the place. And we know the big cases of lawfare and different things like that. But our federal government has been weaponized against a certain group of people in our country. And not only are we going to expose it, we also have to eradicate it to make sure it doesn't ever happen again.
Man, that's I do see a lot of that stuff too, especially with the lawfare. As you're talking, I'm thinking about Donald Trump, and I'm thinking about RFK Jr. He was a big one that they uh, used the law system against. And I'm hearing a lot of people on the left say that we're seeing a lot of retribution and stuff like that. Are you seeing any of that? Because I'll be honest, I'm not. I I've seen people breaking rules and breaking laws and being held accountable, but I haven't seen any retribution.
Yeah. So let me put it like this, because I understand the frustration of many who are on our team here on the right. Where are the arrests? Where is the prosecution? I mean, I'm on Twitter, I see, or X, I see it all too. And I have a sentiment with it too, right? Because it's like, that's what we want. We have to remember the Trump administration just crossed the first 100 days. So they're fresh, they're new, they're still figuring out where's the bathroom at in this building, and where's the stapler. There's things that we don't think about when it comes to government, just real things. And so I am optimistically confident that we will see those arrests that we all know should happen, and that we will see justice. Now, the left labels it retribution because, the president used that term, but it's justice. And the thing about justice in our system, justice is oftentimes very slow. Our legal system is supposed to be, I'm not saying our legal system is perfect, but justice is slow in coming. And government is a very big ship. It's a very big ship. And so as you move the direction of the big boat, this isn't a little speedboat that has two passengers on it that you can just change direction on a dime. It takes time. And so we have to have patience with the Trump administration. I'm seeing it firsthand. They are working tirelessly, effortlessly. I mean, they're just getting after it and doing the best that they can. But patience is key here, because I understand it. Like, where's the Epstein files? Where is all the other stuff? I'm with you guys. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But I do understand, guys. We just crossed 100 days. I mean,
I think there's actually a lot more important things going on right now, especially geopolitically, that we kind of need to pay attention to. And I think, especially with the Epstein files, I don't think we'll ever find out 100% everything. Even with the JFK file, it's like the JFK thing was so long ago,
right.
and there's nobody alive to, I don't think we're going to get 100% of the truth. But you mentioned Trump's first 100 days, and it takes time. I love about 90% of everything that's happened in the first 100 days, and it moved really quickly. Um, we kind of say, the government takes a big time, long time to turn that ship. We're headed for an iceberg and we got to steer around it. We say things like that, but Donald Trump and his administration, in my opinion, have moved really quickly and swiftly with a lot of these things that just needed a decision,
Yes.
just needed a decisive move one way or the other, not, piddle farting around trying to make everyone happy, especially your base, or, trying to get reelected and stuff like that. And I think that's where a lot of the governmental issues come from, is that giant bureaucracy, because people are afraid to piss other people off.
Of course. Well, there's politics and then there's policy. Those are two separate things. But politics oftentimes determines policy, and
Right.
because if you institute certain policy, there can be political ramifications for that. So the thing with President Trump, though, to your point, we got a new captain on the ship, right? A captain that's not asleep at the wheel. Thank God he's awake. Uh, you know, and we got a new captain who does see the iceberg, right? Like America is heading directly towards an iceberg that not only will damage but will destroy the ship. And so the captain is, red alert, all hands on deck, and we're moving the boat as quickly as you can. But to your point, it still just takes time. Just that boat has to move. And luckily, President Trump is kind of like pedal to the metal, smash the gas. We have to do these. And you remember everyone was giving him so much hard times
Grief.
about
Yeah.
the tariffs, right? And did you survive the Trump recession? I survived it. I know it was like two long days of that
I
Trump
actually
recession.
thrived.
Yeah.
I made money. So
Right. So it's like we have to have a little bit of patience. And listen, I'm with everybody on this. I want to see justice, and I want to see, but we're moving in the right direction, which is just a beautiful thing. I mean, it's better than where we were going. We were heading towards that iceberg and at an accelerated rate. It was if not
right.
only did the captain fall asleep, but some of the crew members sped up the boat. And, and then we're finding that out that Biden really was not running the country at all. They're saying maybe about 5 people were kind of running the country. And so more revelations about that are, I'm sure, going to come out.
Oh yeah. I mean, so Biden's policies weren't even that terrible. It was just the implementation of those policies that they weren't implemented correctly. Like the infrastructure bill, like none of that stuff. Like it was funded, but none of it got done.
Right.
And I'm one of those. I'm an infrastructure guy. Before I did this, I was in infrastructure. So underground utilities is what I specialized in. And for me, I see the crumbling infrastructure around us, and it pisses me off.
Yeah.
It makes me fear the future because I know there's politicians that are running the show that don't understand what's going on, and they're just funding the next big thing like USAID.
Sure.
I do understand the need for USAID. I do. I do understand the need for soft power and projection across the globe. I do get that, but there comes a time when you have to take care of your own first. And it's like the airplane analogy, man.
Right.
If you're on an airplane, you go put on that oxygen mask. You can't help your neighbor first. You have to put on your oxygen mask first. Otherwise, there's not going to be anybody to help.
Right. Right.
And I think ultimately that's what Donald Trump is doing with his first administration, especially. Now, this second administration, it's kind of weird because I believe we're actually in the beginning stages of World War III. And it, if you look at everything that's going on, there's globally, geopolitically, there's chess pieces being moved into position. And there's not very many people that are looking into that directly. Donald Trump just got back from the Middle East, and it's like they're picking sides over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the world, you mentioned it earlier, the news cycle is so fast right now. It is
Yeah,
hard to keep up with what everything's taking place. Like there's a new pope, right? And typically that would be the main headline for at least a day or two, right? I mean, new
yeah,
pope. No, that was the main headline for like an hour. And,
yeah,
and and then it just shows you how quickly news is cycling, how many things are happening. Because I mean, for there to be a new pope, to be an American pope too, you just think that would be the top headline for several days. It lasted a good hour, and then
yeah,
everything else shifted. So it just goes to show you there are, to your point, pieces on the chessboard that are moving very quickly, and it is hard to kind of like put it all together. Like what is happening here, and so thankfully. We see good progress with President Trump's foreign policy. And it's an amazing thing from term one to this term, just how much more aggressive the president is, and how much more. So being around him, I will tell you, he is way more loose now than what he has been. I've got a jersey of Kobe Bryant behind me, and athletes, you hear an athlete, a commentator say he's playing tight.
yeah,
And that's usually either not playing up to his full capacity. But if an athlete is playing loose, that means they're rocking and rolling. The president is playing loose right now, and we're having great results. And so that's something, thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, I see it like yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. They were in the Oval Office with the South African president. That was on the left media, mainstream media. You saw, oh, it was an ambush. It was an ambush, and I'm like, don't aren't you just tired of like people like in the position of POTUS, being soft in situations like where they need strength, where we need a
But you know
strong
this.
leader.
If those farmers were anything other than white, those farmers were anything other than white, it would be the biggest story globally. But because they're white, well, all of a sudden, we don't want to talk about it at all because it goes against the narrative. The
Yeah,
narrative, it's the white person who is persecuting every other demographic. And yet
yeah,
in South Africa, it's not. It's
right.
definitely not. And so, which just goes to show you, it's like TDS, we talk about that Trump derangement.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
It is so real, man.
it's so real. I mean, he's trying to help a demographic of people not get eradicated and wiped out, right? A demographic. And he's the bad guy. You're just like, what? That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
He's trying to stop something from killing tons of people, and he's the bad guy. It's the old joke, if he cured cancer, the media would say, "Can you believe Donald Trump put all these doctors out of a job?" It would,
Yes.
with it, it's unbelievable.
Yes, I absolutely agree, man. I see it every good thing that Donald Trump says or does, it gets completely taken out of context or misconstrued, or they find something wrong with it. And I guess that was the turning point for me is when I saw things that Donald Trump was saying that everyone should agree with, and yet only the left and the people in power on the left were pushing back against it. And it's like everyone I talked to that was on the right or left that I personally knew, I could talk about these things with them and they're like, "Oh yeah, we absolutely agree with that." And so it's Donald Trump's not going against the people, he's going against the establishment, and it's a dangerous game. We've seen that already, right? With
Well, they've already tried to kill
they
him
tried
twice.
twice. Yeah, and for the way I felt the day I found out, I was doing a podcast when it happened and I was recording. And as soon as I like my guest would let me know, like, oh, I guess, somebody tried to assassinate the president, and it didn't click right away. And I went ahead, we carried on with the show, and I went in the house and then I saw it on TV. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I got goosebumps immediately. And then he stood up, fight, fight,
Yeah.
fight. And I don't care who you are, right or left, red, white, or blue, he perfectly encapsulated how I was feeling at that moment. Man, I'm tired of being railroaded. I'm
Yes.
tired of people standing up and telling me what's good for me when they don't know me. And I see in the media, on social media, and it's gotten really bad on social media, particularly recent, but the anti-Semitism and anti-Christian sentiment is huge, and I don't know where that comes from. But also, I have also seen sort of a self-correction from where we were in 2020. The anti-Semitism and anti-Christian sentiment is a little bit um, more vocal now, but there seems to be more people pushing back against that idea in 2025 than in 2020 when we were just kind of going along to get along.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you saw what happened last night in Washington, D.C. with the two Jewish individuals that were murdered. Uh,
I haven't even I heard about that. I haven't had time to look into that yet.
it's terrible, and so it's real. This is, I mean, it's not just a social media thing; it's a real life thing. And two young individuals with bright futures are murdered cold blood by a Palestinian supporter. And so these things are real. And we have to deal with it. We can't just turn a blind eye to it, put our head in the sand, and just act like it's not there. It's there. It's there in our federal government. It's there even in our culture. And so these are issues. It takes time to address them, and we have to address them. But we got to do it now. It's not something. Oh, let's wait till it gets really, really. Let's wait until the powder keg goes off, and then we'll just see how things turn out. No, you got to deal with it now before the big explosion, because I do feel like we are culturally, we're kind of like on a powder keg, and there's just like something could spark it to where there's this just, I mean, you remember the summer.
It's almost like we're waiting on that Franz Ferdinand moment.
Essentially, and like I said, we don't want that. We don't want that at all, but it's as if we're like we're there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a prophet of doom or anything like that, because that's not what I want. I hope that doesn't happen. I'd rather for us to address it in discourse, rather for us to address it with policy. And these people that are pro Hamas Palestinian, diehards, that are on student visas, let's get them gone.
Yeah.
They do not belong here. And something we have to realize, this is hard for a lot of people. Islam is not compatible with our way of life. So that's a bottom line. I mean, like, just like you're like, well, they'll come and assimilate. Islam does not assimilate. Islam comes to dominate. There is no assimilation with Islam, and Islamic values and Western values. It's oil and water. They don't mix. They don't mesh. It will never work. They're not here to get along with us. They're here to have a worldwide Islamic caliphate. That's the agenda. That's the goal.
And so they're pretty open and honest about that too.
Oh, they'll tell you exactly. It's like they're not hiding it. It's not some deceptive, hidden thing that only a select few of people know about. No, they're open about it. And look what happened or happening in Europe right now. It's as if Europe is falling. Islam did not assimilate into Europe. They've taken over in Europe. And Islam, in my opinion, it's our greatest threat to our value system, our way of life. And if we don't get serious about this, we're going to have some dire consequences.
Is that where you think the anti-Semitism and anti-Christian sentiment is coming from? Is over in that part of the world?
Well, a large part of it. There's kind of a couple factors here. So Islam obviously cannot stand Christians or Jews. They're called people of the book, and we are, because we're in opposition in regards to belief system. It just doesn't work. However, you have this Marxist ideology that has infiltrated our government, our institutions. And one thing that stops Marxism from spreading is faith. Faith, because God is government within the Marxist ideology. And so you have to get rid of the faith that people have. And so I think that's a major factor why there is so much hostility towards Christians, Jews within our culture, within our government, is because there is this advancement of Marxism. And I mean, we see it. I mean, you got some of them are even open Marxists, which is incredible. It's an incredible thing. And that's an ideology. But that ideology also, just like Islam, doesn't come to assimilate, it comes to dominate. And if you don't push back, you will be dominated by either Islam or you'll be dominated by Marxism, one of the two. And they're both terrible. They both just result in death, destruction, chaos. And so if we don't,
a guy that I watch, a podcast, he said it good. He said it best once. He said, the only thing these people understand is violence.
Yeah. It's what's the old saying? You can shoot your way. Come on, help me. You can
I don't know this one.
You can vote your way into Marxism, but you can't vote your way out.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where I got to shoot. You may edit that out.
You may have to shoot your way out, maybe.
Something like that. There's an old quote about it, but it's counteropposed to who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a very interesting conversation, man, because I can tell you, like, you see something deeper going on, and a lot of people that I talk to, like, I can't barely get anybody from the left to come on the show, to be honest with you. And I agree with some of their ideology, but you can see that there's something deeper going on here, and it's interesting that I think it started back in the 80s, with Russia and the Soviet Union trying to infiltrate the United States with their communist ideas. And we've had a Communist Party of America for like 80 some years, and it's I did not know that, and all this stuff is coming up now, which is why I think that we're on the precipice of World War III. I think something deeper is going on here that on the surface, a lot of people just don't understand. And I think there's people in power right now in the Trump administration that see what's going on, and they're manipulating the board in our favor. And then when the proverbial shit hits the fan, we're all going to know, and we're all going to see this as it's happening. Whether we'll be able to credit Donald Trump for that, I don't know if anybody will see that right away, but they'll be able to see that the United States is still what we thought it was, what we were raised to believe the United States is. And I don't think that'll ever change as long as we stand together.
Yeah, well, I think the president is positioning us as nation for more independence. So if these things happen, that we're not caught, with our pants down, essentially, like,
Right.
oh no, well now we're not getting medication from China. So everyone who's on medication, sorry, there's war. Sorry, no, we're becoming more independent than being totally, you know, relying on other nations that, one, they don't like us. Like,
Right.
just like they don't like, they like our money,
Yeah.
but they don't like us. They don't like our value system or anything like that. And so I think President Trump's doing a really good job at putting America first, which is his job. That's it's. Can you believe it's such a radical concept that the president of the United States would put the American people who elected him first? I always say it's like this, if I'm the CEO of Nike, it's not my job to make sure that Under Armour is selling shoes. My job
Yes.
is to make sure that the brand of Nike and the employees of Nike and the company of Nike is doing well. I put Nike first. And no one would ever fault the CEO of Nike for saying, I'm Nike first. Well, you should be taking care of Under Armour. Well, the CEO of Under Armour should be taking care of Under Armour. It's such a, like, it makes no sense. And but that's the world we live in right now.
Yeah, and I don't think, like you said, you had mentioned the tariffs a while but earlier, and I don't think I think the tariffs were a wonderful idea, and I don't think anybody kind of like, maybe a quarter of the population may understand what that originally was, like, poking the bear with Mexico and with Canada. It wasn't about tariffs.
You say
That
a
was a
quarter, a quarter. I thought I realized everyone was an expert on tariffs.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed that. I've noticed that myself. I think honestly, I think it was because, we see Mexico has a decent relationship with China, and we see Canada starting to go that way. And they even threatened it at the very beginning of the tariff thing. They even threatened, well, we'll just go to China. And I think that's what the implementation of it was for. Like, who's our friends, who's our enemies, who do we need to focus on? And obviously we're friends with Mexico and with Canada, but we just kind of, we have to protect our borders. And I'm wanting to say, it was on the Sean Ryan show. He had an ex CIA person on there, and she was saying that they lost 1,500 known terrorists at the southern border, and they don't even count at the northern border. It's even more open than the southern border. And I know that's terrible. That's scary as hell. You see, October 7th, 2023, what
Right.
happened in Israel? That was just a handful of people. Can
Yeah.
you imagine what? Can you imagine what 1,500 across the United States would do?
Oh,
It's
it would wreak havoc far beyond even 9/11,
yeah,
just because of the volume, the volume. And I don't think we understand that like, there's really people out there that they hate us, and they want to bring down the United States. For everyone's got maybe different reasons, but they have a reason. And they have committed to doing these things. And so that's where it's like these are serious things. And unfortunately, we had 4 years of setting up the enemy to really destroy our nation. Thankfully, we had a miracle it's the November miracle of 2024. And now, the mandate has been given, and we have a commander in chief that is carrying out that mandate and securing our northern border, which nobody ever talked about, right? Because it was always the southern border. And to your point, the northern border, if I was a bad guy, I wouldn't try the southern. I'd just go through the northern because it was
yeah.
a whole lot easier. Unless you were an American trying to come back into America. I don't know if you've ever done that. Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. I'm an
No, but
American
I've
coming
heard the
back into
stories.
America. Oh, it's
I've
unbelievable.
I've never actually left the United States myself. I do want to. I would love to visit places like Europe. I actually one of the dream places I dream of going to is actually Russia. I want to visit Russia one day. Um, I love their culture. I love a lot of things about Russia. And prior to World War One, we were kind of we did not have an adversarial relationship with Russia. We were allies prior to World War
A
One,
lot of people don't
and
realize our borders are nearly connected.
yeah,
Uh, we don't think of Russia as a bordering nation because on our globe they're on the other side. But no, we were a bordering nation, and we even was able to purchase land from them, and so we still are a bordering nation with Russia. So we want, and that's why it's like people give President Trump a whole bunch of hard times because he tries to work with Putin. Like, I want to work with Putin. I don't want to be at war with him. I mean, that's the last thing. I'm not saying that you bow down to the guy,
right,
but you have to have a working relationship with him. Otherwise, you could find yourself in a position, to your point,
exactly,
where World War III happens, and none of us want that because that equals
exactly,
death, that equals destruction, and so why don't we work things out relationally rather than working things out militarily? It's
See, that's
not,
what I
not
want to
a,
see. That's what I want to see within our government, right? I talk about this all the time. What I'm seeing currently right now is a lot of pushback against Trump, but nobody's willing to work with him. And
sure.
and I think if we saw, like, with the left, if they came out and said, "Okay, we disagree 100% with what Donald Trump's doing. Here's what we want to do instead." There's no ideas. There's no policy. There's not, just anti-Trump. That's it.
Right. If Trump says, let's, cure cancer? I'm using that. No, we need cancer. Cancer is a necessary part of life.
And he forces them into a position where they have to defend that, and they do, and that's why they keep losing.
Right. And no, I mean, until they overcome TDS, politically speaking, because they're opposing common sense things that the majority of Americans are going to agree upon, like uh, men and women sports.
Yeah,
You cannot justify that to the majority of people in our country. The majority of people in our country are never going to get on board with men competing against women. It's just not. Now, will there always be that fringe strange, weird minority that makes a lot of noise, yes, that's always going to be there. But the vast majority of people, whether they're Democrat, Republican, independent, don't care at all, they are opposed to men and women's sports. It just is a common sense thing. And so when Trump comes out and says men are not going to compete in women's sports, and then they go and try to justify men and women, they look insane. I mean, they just look absolutely insane, and people are not going to support that politically.
Well,
Gavin
here's
Newsom
another.
got it. He's totally taken a complete shift because he
What's
understands.
scary is, man, Gavin Newsom could win an election. That's scary.
Absolutely, absolutely,
I
he's good.
I don't like that guy, and I
Oh, he's
think
good.
I don't think even if he had some decent policies, man, that guy is slimy.
Oh, I know. He's like the archetypal of a
It,
shady politician, but
he
he is
reminds me of one
smooth.
of those. He reminds me of one of those villains from
Oh yeah,
Marvel movie or something, like a super villain. It's nuts,
and
and
he's not stupid.
right.
He he's smart, and he recognizes politically uh, some of those things that the liberal base is going for. He has now kind of shifted, and he's more of a moderate now, which is because he's
But we
positioning
can
himself for
see right
28.
through it. We can
We
see
can,
right through it.
we
I don't
can,
know
but
if
I've
his
learned
base.
something. People, they have short term, memory. They don't remember things that he has said or done or turned California into a place of fleeing California. And I see him as a big challenge come 2028.
Yeah. I'm hoping. So recently, in the last few weeks, Rubio's really stepped up to the plate, man. I am very confident in the way he's doing things. I love that guy. I didn't even know who he was for a very long time up until the last couple of years. Like I knew his name, but I didn't know anything about him. But when I see his demeanor as he's
Oh,
doing
yeah.
business and as he's handling business is calm, collective, and smart. And I really like that. And we're talking about Gavin Newsom. One of the things that he did was he started a podcast because of the whole Joe Rogan, Donald Trump thing. And I watched one of the best episodes that he had so far is the one with Charlie Kirk.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't know how you feel about Charlie Kirk, but I freaking love that guy.
Oh, Charlie's amazing, but I will tell you that that podcast served Newsom better than anybody
Yeah.
because it brought Newsom to the table, and he appeared as if, okay, he's a reasonable guy. He's someone you could work with. And that's why I say he's positioning himself. And so obviously I'm a huge Charlie Kirk fan. I know Charlie, great guy. But that interview, that podcast, that really helped Gavin Newsom because he came out as someone, well, look, he can have dialogue with Charlie Kirk, who's as far right as, anybody. And yet here's Newsom, and they had a friendly dialogue, and Newsom was cordial, and he was, and so that that was why I say I have a concern about Newsom in 28.
And credit to Charlie Kirk for going on there, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
not,
Well, Charlie's faced a lot worse at these college campuses.
oh, for sure, for
Newsom's
sure.
nothing compared to some of these radical college kids that Charlie goes up against.
That's for sure. Man, I would love to. I'd love to just have a conversation with Charlie Kirk one of these days.
He's a
I've been
genius.
watching him for a long time, and these college debates where he goes and it's not. See, he's got a way of explaining things that even even like the worst kind of people that are not worst kind of people, but the people that completely oppose his views can understand.
Oh yeah.
And he brings out examples and how would you feel if this happened, or let me explain it to you in a different way using a different example so you may be able to understand what we're talking about, kind of thing. I just love the way he explains stuff, and then the way he feels about college.
Yeah.
It's a giant scam, and you know let's be honest. There is sometimes a need for higher education. Well,
Sure.
we won't say that there's not, but by and large, for most people, college isn't the answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I want my doctor to go to college. I want
Right.
my lawyer to go to college. I want my accountant to go to. Listen, there are some professions, yes. There are other professions like gender studies. I don't really know the benefit there to society. I'm not, especially. I mean, how hard is it that there's men,
Right.
there's women, and it's just kind of like that's like I don't know how many more classes, lectures, or degree we need on
Right.
that. So
Well,
yeah, to that point,
they've taken a
yeah,
subunit of study and made it mainstream,
right.
made it
So
a giant course of study instead of
so you
like a
have to have higher
subunit.
ed at some level. You have to have a higher ed because there are certain professions that need extensive training. Like if you're going to perform brain surgery, you need extensive training. Those are just certain things that you need. There are others. I mean, it's like you force these kids to go, they get in debt, and they come out with a career that they didn't even have to go
Yeah.
to the university to be in the career that they have chosen, called to, like whatever the case may be. And not only that, it's just the cost of going to the university is so astronomical because now it's big. It's a complex. It's a big business type of arena, and so you got so many people that are weighed down in debt that they can't afford to pay back, and with those college loans, they're stuck with you forever. You
Right.
can't you can't file bankruptcy on those. So you
I
just
think
there's
you can now.
oh you can
I think
oh
you can
wow
now. I think the Trump administration did that as actually.
okay oh really
I'm not 100% on that. Now I
sure
could be wrong, but I have looked into it a little bit. I don't have student loans, but my wife does.
sure
And what makes me think about these things is when she went to school, and she went for 6 years for a 4 year degree. And the reason, she's a mom
yeah.
working full time, going to school full time, and that's actually how I became a stay at home dad. Um, so she was doing all that, but she said she came home and she said, I'm paying for these classes. I'm paying to go there. And some of these professors don't update their syllabuses. They don't tell you what you need for the class outside of very basic things. And then you'll get into the middle of the class and they'll say, "Oh, we need this thing." And they're like, "Well, that's not included in the coursework." And part of the updating syllabus is we've spent, a couple $1,000s on books that she never even opened.
I remember I went and did 2 degrees in theology, and same dynamic. I bought a lot of books that were not required reading, nor even at the time recommended reading. They were just books that
Right.
were on an older syllabus type of thing. And yeah, it's and those books are expensive, by the way.
Right.
Uh, the books that you're buying at the university, they are, my goodness. Like
Right.
I got my book right. You mentioned it earlier. My book's very affordable. It's not nowhere near like a used book for the university is astronomical.
Three
You
hundred
can't
and
go
some
buy a new one.
dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't
three
go
hundred
buy
and
a
some
new one.
dollars.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember the worst one that I was it was brought to my attention. We spent like 300 and some dollars on a digital code for a book that expires. Like you can't use it after your coursework is done. And I'm like, why do they do things like that? And then it turns out that she didn't use that one either. So
Uh,
and so she had a whole lot of potential that she could have learned, but they were too busy teaching her what to think instead of how to think. And we saw the infiltration of our universities, our institutions, our government, of, like you were saying, these Marxist type ideas, and it's just spreading. And we're starting to see it in grade schools now, and they're indoctrinating these kids, and these kids grow up to be professionals, and so then it infiltrates every part of life. And people like yourself, like I'm not religious. I don't go to church. I believe in God, but I'm not religious. And it doesn't really affect people like me, but I see it and it bothers me that people are being persecuted simply for the what they believe in. And it's mind blowing to me.
Well, that goes against the very way of American life. Here in America, it is meant to be you can believe what you want to believe, and you should not be discriminated against, persecuted for that belief system. And it's freedom of religion, right? Freedom of speech. You can believe.
Freedom of expression.
Yeah, you have the freedom to do that. Well, not really. Not really. It's been, if you believe traditional values, or if you whatever that is, you can and you will be targeted. And so that's why I say, we're in a shifting time. We can either get it right during this window that we have, or the window's going to close, and we're going to find ourselves in a very bad predicament as a nation. And I'm telling you, there's the old phrase: no one should get in between a patient and their doctor, right? You hear that a lot.
Right.
No one should get in between a believer and God either. It's not the government's job to mingle in that relationship between God and a believer, just like it's not the government's job to mingle in between the relationship between a doctor, a patient, a lawyer, a client. There are some things like that that the government needs to stay out of. And yet, our government is doing the exact opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. And then uh, I see such instances of like some of the things I don't agree with the Trump administration is some of the policies on the anti-Israel and anti-Jewish protests. Some of that stuff that's going on. I don't I don't I don't agree with when protesting crosses over into harassment. I don't agree with that. I don't agree when protesting crosses over into violence or taking over buildings or any of the silly stuff that we saw, going on at campuses all around the country. There's a lot of that stuff I don't agree with, but I do agree with their right to assemble.
Of course, of course. Now we have to clarify something. People who are like on student visas, and they're not American citizens. American
Absolutely.
citizens have
Absolutely.
rights, right? Like you and I and others who are, but people who are here on kind of like they're kind of like on a probation. They're here
Yes.
on a
Yes.
probation, and it's not their right to be here either. And so those individuals that are causing chaos in our country that are not American citizens, I'm all for. Get them out of here. That's
Right.
Jackson Lahmeyer's opinion. Doesn't mean anybody else has to agree with it, but I don't see them as having the same rights that you and I have. Just like if I was on some kind of visa over in another country, it's not my right to be there. And
Yes, this is my favorite example that people give in defense of their views on this. Like I would not go to another country and plant my flag in the middle of their lawn. I wouldn't do that.
oh, that's a great way to get yourself shipped back.
Or
And
shot.
so, yeah, there's also that too. Depending on which country you go plant that flag in. And
Right.
so you just have to realize that, like, yes, they are people, they have human rights. Yes, they do not have American rights because they're not American citizens. Those are two separate things. And if you're going over to somebody's house and you cause a ruckus in somebody else's house, they can kick you out. And now you can go do that into your house. That's your house. If you like it in your house, go do it. And so, like I said, I mean, no country would allow you and I to go over there and cause riots and violence. I mean, no country. You and I would be shipped out. So one, we would be arrested. Two,
Yeah.
we'd be prosecuted, and hopefully, we'd have a president that would try to get us back. And
Yeah.
so, listen, I'm not saying that we need to, waterboard these guys or anything. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is round them up, send them back home, and they can do all that they want to do in regards to supporting Hamas or Palestine. Send them to Palestine. Give them a ticket to Palestine. See how they enjoy it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're essentially they're trying to leave their state of oppression and come here. And then they are trying to make here like there. And that seems
Which I don't
counterproductive.
want.
Right.
I don't want that. I like here is not perfect, but here is a lot better than there.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
I think that's a thing that we're also seeing is the United States, particularly, but in the West, a lot of us look at the world how we want it to be
sure.
instead of for what it is. And I think that's a big difference between Donald Trump and say uh, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Let's just say use that example. Um, I think Donald Trump sees the world for what it is and not for what he wants it to be.
Yeah, I think he's a realist, right? I think that's probably the best thing about him is he does see like we have to have a working relationship with Russia. It's
Yeah.
inevitable. We have to have a working relationship with China. It's inevitable. And so does that mean we have to be best friends and allies? And no, that's not what that would be great, right? If we were friends with everybody and didn't have any enemies. And but that's not reality. He's a realist.
Yeah.
And so you can either try to work things out with them policy wise, diplomatically, or you could find yourself shooting missiles at one another, which neither side wants.
No, definitely not. I definitely don't want that. And peace and open dialogue, I think, can go a long way. So, so Jackson, where can people find you if they're wanting to look like we didn't really get a chance to talk much about your book, Chasing After the Wind, which I kind of want to get into that, but we'll schedule something else.
I'll
Where
send you
can
a
people
copy,
find
boss.
you?
They can go to my website, jacksonlawmeyer.com. Good German last name. So jacksonlawmeyer.com. And the book's available there. Book's also available Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the stuff. I pretty active on X and pretty active on Instagram. Not so much Facebook because I've pretty much lived in Facebook jail for the last 4 years, and so I just don't really do. If you
I
weren't in
hate social
jail,
media, man. I
yeah, it's
hate
the
social
worst.
media.
It's the worst. But you gotta be on it. You gotta be on it. It's like just hold your nose and type the post type of thing. And but yeah, jacksonlawmeyer.com. Chasing After the Wind. I tell a lot of great stories about the 2024 presidential election, leading pastors for Trump, the White House Faith Office, and all those type of things. And so, would love to put it in the hands of your listeners and your viewers because I think it would be a good read for them. And I think give them some insights that they'll really be blessed by, and would love to send you a copy as well. And you can let me know what you think about it.
Hell yeah, man. I uh I very much appreciate you coming on. And so yeah, I'll just I'll get with her and we'll get you on the show again and until next time, we'll see you guys later.